Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Hey! Hope everyone's doing well. My name's Connor. If you're new, thanks for joining me and learning about things in Cambridge, Oxford. Great start. I swear half of my intros should be redone, but it's just, it loses the authenticity, so I just need to keep it in. She is a great presenter, probably my second favorite behind Dan Snow. Can't beat Dan Snow. To legend status. The secrets of Oxford streets and what lies beneath the university. Link to the original video, top description. I said that. My name's Connor. Let's learn.
This is Oxford, one of the most historic cities in the world. It's absolutely packed with history, and today I'm going to show you just a few of the highlights. Historic delights which anyone can see for free, secrets hidden in plain sight, if you like. We'll be weaving between the university buildings, exploring everything from medieval palaces to pubs that inspired.
Something about like European, like I feel like you never see this large of an area in anywhere in the US that just all looks like it belongs together, you know, like all of it. Maybe I'm just focusing on just the campus, which is gonna look similar, so maybe no, it's true regardless of this.
University buildings, exploring everything from medieval palaces to pubs that inspired Tolkien. And I'll be showing you plaques which mark the history of executions and endeavour. There's a lot of history here, so make sure you're paying attention. These are the secrets of Oxford's streets.
You can see me, guys? Yeesh.
Oxford has a long and exciting history. The first mention of the city... Oxford has a long and exciting history. The first mention of the city was in the year 911. It was named Oxnaforda under the authority of Edward the Elder, King of Wessex. And incredibly, some of the city's...
911. I thought she said 1911. I was confused.
...of Edward the Elder, King of Wessex. And incredibly, some of the city's earliest buildings still survive.
You gotta turn the TV off. Sorry about that.
And incredibly, some of the city's earliest buildings still survive. If you were visiting Oxford from the north about 900 years ago, you would have seen this building, the Tower of St. Michael. This is the oldest building in the city, dating from around 1040. It would have originally stood just beside the city wall and just within the North Gate. So it's quite incredible to think that this tower would have been standing when William the Conqueror invaded in 1066. Those are pretty sturdy foundations. Knock knock, anyone in? Out of use. In the 1070s, a Motte and Bailey castle was erected here by the Norman Baron Robert D'Oyley. This little green hill is all that survives of the original Motte and Bailey structure, although later parts of the castle do survive, now a popular tourist attraction. But the most exciting part of the castle's history came in the 12th century, during the Anarchy. Empress Matilda was imprisoned here, but in 1141 she made an audacious escape. Oxford was covered in snow and the river was frozen over, and she wore white as camouflage. She was lowered out of her windows along with 4 knights and slipped away into the night unnoticed.
Fairy tale, except jail escape. I love her. I love how that's just a clip. There's no context. Probably what I would do.
Many people probably don't pay much attention to the plaque on Beaumont Place, but this actually marks what was once a royal palace, Beaumont Palace. It was built on the orders of Henry I, the youngest son of William the Conqueror, around 1130, and it was not far from his royal hunting lodge at Woodstock, now the location of Blenheim Palace. And it was here that two English kings were born. As the plaque says, King Richard I was born here in 1157 and King John 10 years later in 1167. This is Broad Street, and right in the centre of the road is something quite peculiar, a small area paved with granite setts forming a cross. This is known as the Martyr's Cross, and it commemorates one of the most grisly episodes in Oxford's past, dating from the reign of Broad Street.
So are water spouts necessary falling on concrete? Because I know the reason for having gutters and water spouts is so that when the rain falls off your roof, it doesn't destroy and loosen up the dirt foundation and end up having problems. But very unrelated to this video, I just had a question. So.
And right in the centre of the road is something quite peculiar, a small area
Oh,
paved
no,
with...
CC. It just empties right there.
Right in the centre of the road is something quite peculiar, a small area paved with granite setts forming a cross. This is known as the Martyr's Cross, and it commemorates one of the most grisly episodes in Oxford's past, dating from the reign of the Catholic Queen Mary I, who made it her mission to reverse the religious reforms of her father, Henry VIII, and brother, Edward VI. During this period, Protestants were persecuted, and it was on this spot, which was once the ditch on the edge of the town, that the Protestant bishops, Thomas Cranmer, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Nicholas Ridley, the Bishop of London, and Hugh Latimer, the Bishop of Worcester, were burnt at the stake in the 1550s. And around the corner is the Martyrs' Memorial, built in 1843 to mark those terrible years of discord and persecution. Next to the Martyrs' Memorial is the Ashmolean Museum, one of my favourite places to visit in the city. It was established in the 17th century to display the cabinet of curiosities owned by Elias Ashmole, who gave the museum its name. It's full of pretty incredible treasures, the death mask of Oliver Cromwell, the Alfred Jewel, and the lantern that Guy Fawkes carried during the gunpowder. The Alfred Jewel, full of pretty incredible treasures, the death mask.
Death masks. I think they should have. Oh, is it like how do they create a death mask? Do you have to be dead? Like, is it like do they pour? I wish they did it of more like facial, like exact, rather than statues or paintings where stuff can be embellished or even if it's not, even if they're trying to be as accurate as possible and the king wants it to be, it's not going to be perfect. But it's crazy when it's like a cast, because like that's what their face looked like. And it would be better if it wasn't a death mask, because, you know, when they're dead, they're going to be much more, you know, sunken eyes and, well, dead looking. And, you know, I wish there were more like live face masks, life masks.
Cromwell,
all right?
the Alfred Jewel, and
what's the Alfred Jewel?
the lantern that Guy Fawkes carried.
I know these two, but
During the gunpowder plot of 1605, and it's got a pretty good cafe.
Assuming it has something to do with Alfred and a jewel.
Oxford, the Radcliffe Camera. It is named after John Radcliffe, a physician who left £40,000 in his will to start the building works. It's called camera because in Latin this is the word for room, although it's commonly known as the Radcam. It's designed in a neoclassical style.
Beautiful lawns, different shapes. That's a great, nice oval there with the straight sides. Well maintained.
It was built by James
Could use some
Gibbs
watering.
between the years 1737 and 1749, and it's still used by students to this day. In fact, underneath this square, there is apparently space for 600,000 books, which is a lot of reading.
Ooh,
This is the magnificent
nice.
Church College, the largest.
Sorry.
This is the magnificent Christ Church College, the largest of the University of Oxford. It was founded by Henry VIII and built under the supervision of Cardinal Wolsey. And many of the students here have gone on to become pretty successful. They've had 13 British Prime Ministers and 17 archbishops,
Nobel laureates,
as well as people like Lewis Carroll, John Locke, and even King Edward VII. And
John Locke, he's that guy.
Here's a little handy tip
Who
if you're
wrote
ever
that
visiting
thing?
Oxford or Cambridge, because people do get
Common Sense? No. John Locke, is he the economy
a
guy?
bit touchy about this sort of thing.
No.
In Oxford, all of the large rectangular inner green spaces within the colleges are called a quadrangle or a quad. But in Cambridge, they are called a court. Important. Behind me is the Tower of Five Orders, and this is a brilliant architectural lesson because it shows the development of the classical orders of architecture. So at the bottom we have the Tuscan, then the Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, and then Composite. At the bottom they're quite thick, quite stout, quite what they would call masculine. At the top they get more elegant and more refined. So it's a bit like a tiered wedding cake. Delicious. This is one of my favourite architectural details to spot. These helical columns. These are called Solomonic columns, and they were named so because they're traditionally believed to have been in the ancient temple of Solomon.
I've never seen columns like that.
Wavy. Behind Merton College is a very exciting plaque. This marks the location where, in 1784, a pastry chef named James Sadler set off on an audacious mission. He made the first hot air balloon journey by an Englishman ever, rising from Christchurch Meadows here to a height of about 3,600 feet and landing in a place called Wood-Eaton, about 6 miles away. This postbox in the north of the city may look like nothing particularly remarkable, but it actually has its own blue
Don't tell me it leads to the Ministry of Magic.
Plaque dedicated
I love Harry Potter, okay? I'm sorry, I know. All right.
To Sir James Murray.
Oxford
Murray was
Dictionary.
the editor of the Oxford English Dictionary, and he sent so many letters to complete this epic tome that the Royal Mail decided to install a postbox outside his house to accommodate his vast correspondence. And here's a bit of postbox trivia for you. This is actually quite a unique, unusual example for the late Victorian age because most of them were hexagonal in shape, whereas this one's round, a style that was brought in 1879. And it is an anonymous pillar box. This means that it doesn't have the words Royal Mail or, as you'll usually find, the cipher of the reigning monarch.
Imagine knowing a fact like that. Like, some people know random facts, but some people just know a lot of facts. Of like, oh yes, I know in 1879 when they changed the British post office from hexagonal to circular shape. Ah, yes, I knew that. I knew that. Everyone knows that. Common knowledge.
You'll usually find the cipher
Should be on Junior
of the
Jeopardy.
reigning monarch.
Regina.
The best place to eat in Oxford, if I say so myself. Some of the most famous stories surrounding Oxford are connected to a group called the Inklings, a writers' group which included C.S. Lewis, author of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and J.R.R. Tolkien,
Mr.
who
Tumnus.
wrote The Lord of the Rings. The Inklings would meet to read and discuss various material, including their unfinished manuscripts. But sometimes they...
Guys, you ever notice like a lot, like I crack my neck a lot, and that only really started when I started reacting to stuff because I have two monitors, one where like I have the recording stuff and one where I'm watching the video, and I kind of sit between, and I really should just be facing this one, but I don't. And so like, if you notice, I always do that, and you're just like, why is he? That's why. It's
gather in the various material, including their unfinished manuscripts. But sometimes they'd gather in the various Oxford pubs. On Monday or Tuesday lunchtimes, they'd come here to the Eagle and Child in a private lounge in the back of the pub called the Rabbit Room. And it was at one of these gatherings in June 1950 that C.S. Lewis distributed the proofs for The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. And it's believed that Lewis was inspired by the magic of Oxford streets to write his tales of Narnia. Lewis, who was born in Belfast, came to Oxford as a student and lived here for much of his life, studying and teaching. The story goes that C.S. Lewis stumbled out this doorway in Brasenose College. It was a snowy night and he came upon this solitary lamppost. And then further along St Mary's Passage, he came across this doorway with this lion-like face in the centre, a sort of green man figure.
Aslan.
And it's flanked by these two fawns, these
Mr.
creatures which
Tumnus.
are half man and half goat. So, as legend would have it, this is the spot where Narnia came to C.S. Lewis's imagination, complete with lamppost in the snow, Aslan the lion, and even Mr. Tumnus the fawn. Is the speculation true? Who knows? But it does feel like rather a coincidence, don't you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think, Mr. Tumnus? Lewis died in 1963 and was buried at a cemetery in the north of Oxford, and you can still see his grave today. Nearby, inside the church, is an etched glass window showing characters from Narnia. Tolkien too was buried in Oxford at Wolvercott Cemetery beside his wife, Edith. But one of the most surprising features to see in Oxford can be found in Headington, in what was once a row of terraced houses. On the 9th of August 1986, one of these residents did something quite unusual. Bill Hine was a local radio presenter, and on the roof of his house, he installed an enormous shark. Hine was making a statement against nuclear weapons, with the shark being used as a metaphor for falling bombs. Of course, the council found this a bit fishy, and so they made all sorts of objections. But in the end, the
I'd be pissed. I'm like, what the hell? Oh, it's an art depicting, you know, the tragedy of the bombings in World War II. It looks like a tornado dragged some fake shark from a seafood restaurant sign and flew it into your thing.
Shark was allowed to stay, and now it's become quite a popular feature of the area. So there you have it. Those are the secrets of Oxford streets. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Very cool. Guys, can I say one thing that's kind of, where's the graveyard? Here it is. There's, you know, I heard a quote that was really interesting, where like you die twice, and that you die when you're dead, right? Like that's when when you decompose, and then you die again when the last person who knows about you dies. And that's pretty crazy, because then at that point, when like the last person who knows of you and like knew you or knew your name, and once they die, like you are now just one of the billions of people that lived before. And I thought that was kind of crazy, and it kind of is symbolized by when you see very unkept gravestones that are old, that I'm sure many people who cared took great care of, and then I think that symbolizes that second death, when the gravestone starts to go into, you know, disrepair and starts kind of being taken over by the stuff. It's not cleaned. So I just thought I thought that's pretty crazy. Like, think about all the people. This is completely, I love the video. I'm going off topic here, but think about all of the people throughout history who lived complete lives, had all of these tragedies and funny moments and heartbreaking, and are just Thanos, like nothing. That's why I don't want to be cremated. Okay, by the way, like that's one of the reasons. I know it might be crazy, because I like the possibility that your bones are like that last piece of you are still somewhere, right? And I don't know. Put me in a funny position. That's what I put in my will. This just turned into a dark video. It's great. But in my will, I'd be like, okay, when I die, like, put me in a really funny position in the casket, or like in like a place where I can go that like would be like really funny, so that if someone in centuries digs it up, they can have a laugh or something like that. Because I don't care, like when I'm dead, I'm dead. I don't care if I'm in. It would be pretty cool to be in this like giant tomb in Egypt or whatever. But sorry to make it into a somber time. But yeah, that second death quote kind of was like, oh, geez. Anyways, leaving on a happy note. Love you guys. Hope you're all doing well, and I'll see you next video. Bye, guys. Hope you learned something or can teach me something in the comments. Love to see it. Bye.